Sunday. As you know, we have services first and third Sunday. So he will be bringing a word Sunday morning for the Sunday worship service. As you know, we partner with House Chapel, Church of Christ, Disciples of Christ, located at 214 East Preston Street in this city of Selma, North Carolina, for our Sunday school. And yours truly, I will be teaching the Sunday school this Sunday at 9:45. So do please feel free to join us. If you are not in the area, join us virtually as we will be broadcasting. But if you happen to be in the area of Selma, North Carolina, why don't you join us in person for our Sunday school and then go ahead and worship with us at 11. Um, as I said, Greater Harvest will have their service at 11, and that will be by Elder Michael Palmer, who will be bringing the message for that Sunday, this Sunday coming up. We do have a few other things that are in the works, and so please follow us. If you are following us on YouTube, like and subscribe to the channel. You will be able to keep up with everything that Greater Harvest is doing as it is hooked to my YouTube channel. But if you are Facebook and you're following us on the Greater Harvest page, then please make sure that you are following and like us as well. We have many things that are coming up. I do have a few announcements on this Sunday. Uh, House Chapel will be giving away book bags and supplies, school supplies for the community. They have 25 bags that they're going to be giving away. You must be present. The child has to be there to receive. You can't come and say, I want to get it for my two children or one child or five children. You have to bring the children and they will be able to receive a book bag. So please feel free to join us there 11 a.m. For their morning worship service. And in that service, they will be doing something for uh, the giveaway. Um, Also, I am going to be blessing the youth of House Chapel for their participation in Vacation Bible School, the class that I taught. And they were so amazing. These were some awesome young people with great dreams and focus for their goals when they actually go to college. There was a marine biologist in the mix. There's a labor and delivery nurse in the mix. I'm telling you, got a celebrity. Hello, Sister Stevens. Good to see you on. Um, so I was talking about some of the things that we have coming up. Today, we are going to be in the lesson of Esther, and we're going to be talking about God's hand works through godless people. And this is going to be dealing with Esther, the first chapter, verses 1 through 22. And of course, some other scriptures that will be brought to the forefront in the lesson, and we will talk about those as we go. As I said, Greater Harvest is a virtual church at this moment. That does not mean that becoming a member of it means that you don't have regular obligations. We still expect you to be on the services first and third Sunday. We still expect you to support and participate in your Bible studies on Tuesday and Sunday schools on Sunday at 9:45. So I'm watching people. I see people that are members and I watch for their names to pop up and everything. I thank you for those of you that aren't members but are supporters, like Sister Stevens. Thank you so much for your support and your encouragement. It keeps us moving forward, moving forward. So, as I said, you can scan the QR code, or better yet, go to the website down that's scrolling below, because the QR code, that page is not fully functional. I have to do I got to do some training so that I know how to work the software. But this one is fully functional. So the one that's scrolling at the bottom, you can always go there and become a member even through that page. So where you can donate, you can sow a seed. You can either do it through this Cash App or on the page. It shows you how. So that's all I got for solicited um, donations. Because my thing is, if you want to bless the ministry, you're gonna bless it either with prayer, monetarily, or just with your support. So that's all I'm going to say on that. Let's get into the lesson. All right. So the book of Esther celebrates God's use of a powerless orphan girl to save a nation that's in exile. And I want you to know that this encourages and amazes many who read it, because it lets you know that even when you don't seem to be the most important person, God can still use you. This story is so important. It is read aloud each year during the Jewish Feast of Purim. Esther's life is truly a journey with God's powerful provision. Hello, Sister Swenson. Good to see you on. It testifies to the promise. We are in the book of Esther, first chapter. Okay. Um, It testifies to the promise, and we know that all things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are the called according to his purpose. Romans 8:28. And this story proves that. Um, it proves it in every way. It testifies to that promise because Esther was a little known person. She was part of a crew. Hello, Pastor Armstrong. Good to see you on. We are in the book of Esther, first chapter. And I want to just give a little bit of information, because a lot of times people don't really know Esther. There's only two books in the Bible that are named for a woman. Esther's one, and y'all know what's the other one? Anybody want to type that in and give me an answer? The other book before I give the name of it. Um, it's Ruth. Okay. So it's only two books that's written with a woman's name. But Esther is, hers is so outstanding because it teaches each person, any person, that it doesn't matter your walk of life, because we have to look at the history. Esther was one of many of the women that were there that could be chosen. If a queen went out, they could be chosen. So she was not like, oh, well, Vashti is queen and she's the other one. There was a whole group of them. So it shows that even amongst the many and amongst the crowd, God knows you. He sees you, and he can see what's in you and what can be used by him for his glory. So don't worry if it's a crowd of them. You could be the very one that God wants to pick. So the name of God is never explicitly mentioned in the book of Esther. However, God's invisible hand guides every detail of these events to rescue his people. And yes, Esther is a book that you never see the name of God, but we know who's working. As we journey through this book together, we will meet historical people whose lives encourage us to trust the path God has set for our own lives. Um, we read in Proverbs 3, 5, 6a through 6a. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart and lean not to thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him. And if we do this other thing, that last phrase, if we do this, he will direct your path. Hello, Sister Chestnut. Good to see you on. As with any good story, the first chapter of Esther sets the scene for everything that follows. In this introduction, we see God's powerful hand can work out his sovereign plan even through the lives of godless people. He's going to use an immoral king, a rebellious queen, and a self seeking advisor. See, we're going to see all of this. The events in Esther occur during the history recorded in the book of Ezra. So always go back, read Ezra. Um, Esther gives us a behind the scenes look into the power dynamics of Persian politics. Now, we need to understand that there was politics going on every time we dealt with any of the children of Israel and their captivity. You had the politics that was after Daniel and Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego. There was politicking going on. These dudes, these magicians and magi and all of them, they was worried that Daniel was getting too popular. So these politics go on. Esther gives that these dynamics relate directly to the rebuilding of Jerusalem in the time of Ezra and Nehemiah. And we know that Nehemiah made a request of our Artaxerxes in Nehemiah 2:5, where he asked him to send him to Judah to rebuild the city. The first chapter of Esther introduces us to King Ahasuerus, called Xerxes in Persian. His son Artaxerxes will meet with Nehemiah decades later. Okay, at the time of Esther, the Persian kingdom stretches its powerful grip from modern day Libya to Pakistan. That's more than 3,000 miles in width. Um, and these were the kings in the Bible, the Persian kings. You had Cyrus the Great. You find him in Ezra 1:1. Darius the first, Ezra 6:13. Xerxes, or I'll tell you the name, Ahasuerus in Esther 1:1, and Artaxerxes in Nehemiah 2:1. The Holy Bible amazes us with detailed information about these ancient societies. God's plan of redemption was centered in the nation of Israel. And but God's sovereign providence encompasses all creation. This includes the most powerful human empires in history. Um, for example, Cyrus the Great was anointed by the Lord to rule the Persian Empire and free the Jews. And you can find that in Isaiah 45:1a, where he makes that statement. And he says, the Lord anointed. So that lets us know that the Lord picks people for specific reasons. And there was specific reasons for some of these kings. Some of them were people that the Lord chose because they were his servant. And Cyrus was one. Most commentators agree this prophecy was fulfilled when Cyrus the Great issued the decree in Ezra 1 through 4. After this decree, some Jews chose to return to Judah and rebuild the temple in Jerusalem. And that's what I said, rebuild the city. I meant rebuild the temple, excuse me. Um, Glad that it gets corrected before I get off of here. So, what we find is for various reasons, many Jewish families did not return to Israel. Esther's family was among those who remained in the Persian capital of Shushan. By the time Esther is born, Cyrus the Great, or Cyrus the Great's grandson, Ahasuerus, is on the throne. All right. So that's the history. In the opening scene, the king is hosting a spectacular banquet. And the banquet lasted for 104 score days. Good Lord. Apparently, 6 months of partying is not enough, though. So, King Ahasuerus hosts another 7-day banquet. I tell you, they did some partying. Uh, they partied longer than we did. Good gracious. Uh, so he held another 7-day banquet to include more common folk at the citadel in Shushan. Verses 6 and 7 elaborately detail the riches the king puts on display for the people who attend his banquet. And then he gives them instructions for people to do according to every man's pleasure. He didn't have, his rule was do it if it makes you feel good, do what makes you feel good. That was what he was basically saying. Whatever makes you happy, do it. So history paints him as a prideful leader who drank excessively and often acted with impulsive anger. And we see this if you read the story of Esther, you will see it. Despite his immoral character, as with his grandfather Cyrus, God chooses to use King Ahasuerus to bring about the redemption of his people. Because if you read it, and as we go more in, um, I will be doing this when I take over Bible study, because Elder Palmer will be back for the last few Tuesdays in this month. I don't take back over until September, and I'll pick up Esther then. Um, but as we'll see, um, Ahasuerus is used in many ways for many different things to redeem God's people. The backstory of Esther teaches us God's hand overrules an immoral king, and God's hand outsources a rebellious queen. Verse 9 introduces us to Vashti, the queen of Persia. She is throwing her own party with her women. And in 11, verse 11, 111, we'll see King Ahasuerus. We know the story, but let's give you the little background how he tells his chamberlains to go over and bring Vashti the queen before the king with the crown royal. Um, what he wants is to flaunt her. He's not calling her because he cherishes her. He's not calling her because he wants to present the queen by his side. He's calling her because he's drunk and he wants to show off because she is a good looking lady. She is known to be beautiful and everything. So he's doing this. But the thing is, Vashti gives a rebellious response because she partying with her girls. And she responds where she refuses to come to the at the king's commandment. She tells him, "No, I ain't coming." You tell him, "No." Um, and the last part of verse 12 reveals that King Ahasuerus' character. It says, "Therefore was the king very wroth, and his anger burned in him." So he got angry because she sent back that she won't come. So you know how that goes. Back in that day, you know the queen had she had rights, but when it came to the king, those rights were superseded by him. If he commanded you come, you come. Because I mean, we even read in Esther. I mean, you've read the story of Esther, I'm sure. So you know that at one point Esther makes the statement to um her uncle how well not her uncle is really her cousin how um she's going at the risk of her life because if he doesn't get point the golden scepter, then she could be beheaded for coming unrequested. So here, Vashti is requested and refuses. So of course, a man with a big ego betting through him, and this is so. His character is revealed by the fact that it says he was very wroth and anger burned to him. Now, Christian character is revealed by how we react when someone wrongs us. But Psalm 37:8 tells us, "Cease from anger and forsake wrath." We need to learn how to don't go and fly off the handle just because someone did something to you or said something. As children, as Christians, you were already told by Jesus that you were going to be persecuted. He already said that they persecuted me, they're going to do the same to you. So when you came into this, you already knew. Now, I know what some of you say. Yeah, but I was expecting it to be the world, not the church. Well, you got to remember, as I have told y'all on numerous occasions, the devil went into the meeting too. Everything inside of the church building or the organization isn't the church. Some are just people that come, or members, or demons and devils that have set up their um, altars within the church. But the real church, they won't do those things. They won't do things to you. They won't treat you bad and talk about you and bring it down. But we have to keep our anger in check. I mean, good Lord, I've had so many things done to me. If I spent all of my energy in anger over the things that have been done to me, I would not have any energy to live. Okay. So I want to live, and I enjoy life, and I enjoy living a life that is pleasing to my Lord. It makes me happy. So I ain't got time to get anger part of my energy. So I refuse. Instead, I pray for people that do things to me, because God said, "Touch not my anointed, do my prophet no harm." So He'll handle it. Vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. I will repay. I don't have to do anything. All I got to do is keep praising God and praying for the ones that do wrong, and that's all you need to do instead. Okay, so next we see how God's okay. So in the first chapter we of Esther, it shows us God's hand overrules an immoral king, outsources a rebellious queen, and then finally 1:13 through 22, we see that God's hand outmaneuvers a self-seeking advisor. You know them ones that come up, side up, give you some bad advice, because what they doing is trying to get rid of somebody, because they think that that will give them the power seat. If they can just move you, then they can have the power seat, and they'll give you the worst advice in the world to get you, but it soothes your ego, and so you agree. So this is what we see. The remainder of chapter 1 details King Ahasuerus' angry response to Queen Vashti's rebellion. In verses 13 and 15, the king gathers his advisors and asks what the law says should be done with the queen. You know, the private meetings, what we ought to do with them. What y'all think? You know, I don't want to seem like I'm the only one. What do you think? That's getting the crew together. That's the ones that know how to work people. So it says, verses 16 through 20, record the advice given by Memucan. This feeds the king's anger by exaggerating the impact Vashti's rebellion will have. He done blew it out. You know how they go. Well, if they keep right on being in their position, they gonna get everybody following them, and they gonna just tear the place apart. They gonna make it so it don't seem nothing like what we have always done, or how we been, or who we are. You know that how they do. They gonna take this office and they're gonna turn it in. Because some co-workers, they get together when a new supervisor then came in, because the supervisor made a change, and somebody did, and they didn't like the change. Although no one's allowed the change to work so that they can see that it's better for them, they listen to this charmer that trains them and feeds and stokes their ego with, and you should have, I think that what you said actually would have been better, but they just dismissed you and la la la. This is how they do. And so this is what Memucan did. He claims the women of the land will hear of Vashti's rebellion and will begin despising and disobeying their own husbands. So he recommends the king issue an edict that Vashti should be replaced with a more worthy queen. Memucan likely sees personal gain in suppressing Vashti's power and trying to stir up fear in the women throughout the land. Now, the king is pleased with this advice, and he issues one that says, anybody that is cursed of him shall be cut off. So he's cursed Vashti. She's cut off, no longer the queen. And Memucan is thinking, here's his thing, his thought process. Vashti had too much power. First of all, she was Persian. Second of all, she was queen, and she was outspoken queen. From what you can read, let's be real. Let's think about it for a second. No, the book doesn't say it, but common sense will tell you. Vashti was obviously a bold and outspoken queen because she had the audacity to refuse his command to come. Now, she had been queen for quite a while, so there ain't no way that she all of a sudden got bold. It means she has already been probably bold and outspoken. She told the king when she was and wasn't going to do something, but it was private. So Ahasuerus didn't do anything. But this go round is very public, that she has refused and said, no, I ain't coming. So he done got angry because you done messed with his ego. You done messed with him and humiliated him in front of all these noble people. You got some nerve, because that's what happens when people mess with you in the church. It's because not that you humiliated them, but you didn't agree with them. You didn't follow them. You stood on what was right and told them they were wrong, and they didn't like it. And when people don't like it, they'll come after you. Because unless, let me make this statement, unless they saved. If they real children of Christ, they don't get mad with correction. Only those that are not. All right. So in the New Testament, Paul teaches us that a wife's submission to and respect for her husband is not a result of fearing his power. So we see that even in this Old Testament, this is what it's trying to allude to. Vashti was not afraid of the king's power. So instead, her submission and respect, a woman's submission and respect grows out of being loved, in the way that Ephesians 5:33 says, and that is to love, where it tells a husband to love his wife as himself. In this first chapter of Esther, we see God's hand overrules an immoral king, outsources a rebellious queen, and outmaneuvers a self seeking advisor. What does this mean for us today? Providence is a theological term used to describe the way God guides and provides for his children along life's journey. It can be difficult for us to sense God's providence when we are surrounded with difficult circumstances in our personal lives. All right, so a difficult time in my life during which I experienced the truth of Proverbs 3:5-6. It was lean not to your own understanding, in all thy ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your path. I had been looking, I was ready to change jobs. I had it up. I was fed up with the things that kept going on at the job that I was in. There was some people that was also part of the problem, but also the organization's higher ups. There was problems, and I wanted to leave. I was like, you know what? When I get fed up, I'm gone. I might say it a few times, but if I'm not fed up, I won't leave. But when I'm fed up, you can count on I'm leaving. And I had gotten fed up, so I was looking. And the thing is, one job called, and right after they called, the other job called. And here's the thing, I had two jobs, and I really wanted one of them. But I said, Lord, for you to put two in my path, I need to come to you and find out which job I need to accept. Because I don't want to leave a stable job and go to something that ain't stable. So I had to pray and not lean to my own understanding. Because if I'd have leaned to my own understanding, I'd have leaned to the job that I was like, ooh, I like this. I want to do this, blah, blah, blah. Instead, I listened to the Lord, and here it is, 20 years later, and I'm still at UNC because that was the two, one of the two. And now the other job, mind you, that company during COVID, they folded. So I would have lost my job during COVID. Instead, I was an essential worker and my job stayed in place. So this is a way that we can learn from some of the scriptures. And then it's uh, in the first lesson, we discovered that God can work through ungodly leaders to accomplish his purposes. What encouragement can we find from this aspect of God's providence? Well, what you can see is that what's the encouragement? You may be on a job and your supervisor is not a godly person. You may be at a church and the person, I'm gonna use for an example. You may be in the choir. No, I ain't gonna use the choir. I'm gonna use, you may be on a committee and the person that is in charge of that committee doesn't want you to work, don't want to listen to anything that you got to say, and is trying to keep you muzzled and keep you in chains. But I want you to understand that the providence of God is He will elevate you in His time, and when He elevates, it's the perfect time. Um, Everybody knows that I'm a new pastor at Greater Harvest. And one of the things that I told the Lord was, okay, but now, Lord, I ain't never put a church together. I have helped in putting a church together, but I've never had to do it from the floor up myself. I don't know about this. And matter of fact, was like, can't you give me a already established church? Can you move me? And he was like, I want you to work this. I want you to work this because it's necessary. Because I need to get and reach the masses. I need to reach them places that four walls can't reach. So I need for you to use this airway to reach the masses. And even when I put you in the four walls, I want you to continue this virtual side of the church because you're going to have people that are members that are all over the world. And they're going to be wanting to continue to tune in to their Sunday services. So I've already seen that this will never cease until the day that they take religion off of the airways. And that'll be from Antichrist, not from any other. But anyway, so what you need to see is that regardless of what's above you, who's in charge, God, his providence, his great providence, he's gonna make it that he can work through that ungodly person to put you in a position that he wants you. Because Esther wasn't expecting to become a queen. She was one of those that was of the slaves. He didn't even know what she was until she told it. She was part of the crew. Beautiful. She was beautiful and pretty, so they had her in the group. But didn't know until the Lord said, this is what I need. He set the steps for elevation for Esther. All right, so we got to remember that. And anger drives King Ahasuerus to make an impulsive decision that impact the entire kingdom. And this is why we have to be very careful with our anger and our wrath, because you can make a decision in the midst of your anger that you will regret later because it was impulsive, it was not well thought out. You actually ended up, what is that, cutting your nose off to spite your face. So you end up causing yourself more troubles, all because you was angry. And I know, I know, because when I was in the world with my anger, I made a decision and I regretted it. I regretted it later because once said, you can't take those nasty words back. And I hurt the feelings of a good friend, and I regretted it. But I had to go through, and finally, it took me years. It took some years because I had to prove myself, because I took the trust that she had and I messed it up with my sarcastic, ugly temper. She never thought I would talk to her that way. And I did. But it was because I was mad and I didn't control my anger. I acted like I wasn't a human being that had control over my own anger. And that is what did it. And she just sort of eased away from me. And then one day I realized, that was a really good friend and I done lost it. And I said, wow, I'm receiving what I have given out before myself. And I went, I apologized, and she still was a little standoffish. And like I said, it took years. I mean, we back straight up friends again, but it took a lot of work because I had abused her trust with my anger. And so we have to watch it and be careful of the things that we say in the midst of our anger, because we might make a decision, or you might tell a person to leave, get out, leave, don't ever return. And they do, and you regret it later, but it's nothing you can do about it because they left and they're done. Because they're like, well, you know what? If this is the way you feel, then I'm going to let you have that. I've done that. Anger, they came at me with anger, and in their angry, impulsive moment, said something and this is why I apologized to my friend, was because I had it done. And like I said, it was done to me, and I didn't like it. So I know that she couldn't have liked it because I did. Now, this person never came back to apologize. They regretted it, but they didn't apologize. So I stayed where I was, and they stayed where they was. Um, but you can lose great relationships because you let anger take control. Ahasuerus lost and gained in the same hand. He lost Vashti, he gained Esther, and Esther gained favor. But that was because the Lord was using Ahasuerus for that purpose. But it was through his anger that God used him to to carry forward the children of Israel. Because as we know, what we you know the story, and we're gonna probably hit that in there, but just a little summary. We know that it comes up that there was an edict that was done with the king's seal, and it said that they were gonna go after the Hebrews, and they couldn't fight back or anything, but it was in the edict that they had no weapons, they had no way of defending themselves when these Persians was going to come upon them. And that was what Mordecai's job was, to get Esther to go in. And the king he can't change something, he can't take back what he's put the seal on, but he did write anew and put the seal that said that they had the right to defend themselves. So we'll get into that more as we go into the book of Esther. But so far, we have done with chapter 1 and dealing with 1 through 22. And what we have seen is a succession of how God has used godless people for his purpose. He took a rebellious king, and it brought in Esther into the position of queen. It took a rebellious queen to lose her position so that Esther could take her position without there being an overthrow by her or a rebellion amongst the ladies. Instead, it was Vashti's own rebellion that cost her queenship. And then we see how Memucan, with his thinking that he was going to win something, he helped pave the way to get rid of Vashti by giving bad advice to the king. So we can see how God's hand can work with godless people for our good. You see? And this is where comes to mind the scripture that says, I will make your enemies your footstool, because they became footstools for the children of Israel without realizing it. And that's the same thing that happens with us. Those people that have been your enemy, your foes, they have come up against you to eat up your flesh. They trying to take you out. They trying everything they can to remove you, push you out, get you out of the way. But here's the thing. In the end, God will prevail. They won't receive the power that they thought they were going to get, and you will be elevated to where God wants you to be. There is no person that is able to do anything to a child of God. Not a person, not the devil. They can't do, the devil has to ask permission to mess with God's children. And there is nothing that can be done if you don't allow it to happen. Give it to the Lord and tell him it's in your hands, handle it. And then let him do what you asked him to do. Get out the way and watch God move. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. That's all we got to do. So, the next time someone wants to come up against you, just say, you know what? Now, God got a plan that's better than what you're doing. And let them alone. Don't even bother. Don't worry with them. Just let it go and give it to God and watch him take care of everything. So tonight you have learned that God, uh, God's hand can work through godless people for the good of his own. So don't worry about it. Don't try to fight physical fights. It's on the spiritual level. No matter what they say, it is on a spiritual level. Because if we come back with spirituality instead of this mouth, they don't know how to handle that. Because, see, the devil in them came at you with the expectation that it was going to make you lose your so-called religion. See, we ain't got religion. We saved, sanctified, and filled with the Holy Spirit. So that's a difference than being where we got religion, because religion comes and goes. So we just show them that the Lord will keep me, and he will bless me, and he will move my enemies out of my way. Keep moving forward. God's hand at work through godless people to bless his own. All right. So I hope that y'all have enjoyed tonight. This was a sort of quick lesson. So I hope that you enjoyed it. And please make sure and join us Sunday, 9:45 for Sunday school. Yours truly will be teaching. I'm going to be talking about my boy Saul. And y'all call him Paul. But I'm going to be talking about my boy Saul. So y'all come on and join in with me, 9:45 Sunday School. I'm partnering with House Chapel, Church of Christ, Disciples of Christ, which is my home church with my pastor. And he's allowed me to partner my Sunday school with their Sunday school. So you see it and be able to see different teachers. So just join us at 9:45. And then at 11, tune back in for Sunday morning service with a word from Elder Michael Palmer. So be blessed. And I hope to see you all Sunday. Have a blessed rest of your week.